Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Auzu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. We're on the sixth day of Muharram, and with Dr. Walji, we are having a discussion on the lessons that we learned from the sacrifice of Imam Hussein and the battlefield of Karbala. We're faced with the odds of losing his and his family's life. He stood up the grounds and challenged the powers and the mights of that particular time, even though they all claimed to be Muslims. Yet it was a battle that has gone down in history as a game changer for Islam, because from that time onward, the shape of Islam was changed by those tyrants to suit their political interest, which was later on endorsed or supported or promoted by many, many dynasties in different parts of the world. Imagine if that event may not have taken place. What would have been the situation in the case of the Muslim community and Muslim society? One of the key concepts that Imam Hussein's struggle is remembered 1400 years after event is his commitment to the concept of equality, which of course became a constitutional and legal kind of terminology after all those kind of charters that we developed in 1940s and much before that, in different forms of documents that in different societies adopted. I think at that time when there was no such kind of charter and there was no such kind of talk about the equality of human being, when 90% of the people lived in a state of slavery, where the people were being treated as objects, where men and women both suffered at the hands of those people who were mighty powerful. He stood up for the idea of equality in terms of not only being equal in status, in rights, and opportunities. That means that he wanted each an individual and group of people given the same resources and opportunities, regardless of the circumstances in the society and racial or ethnic movements. Now, this is something that it's hard to find in those kind of eras and those kind of people, where basically, if you look at these societies at that particular time, the same day, in a time when Imam Hussein was having that kind of struggle, China was having the worst kind of slavery. India was having worst kind of oppression against the Dalits, who were being condemned to lower status based on their birth, because they were told that they were born from the feet of the deity. Or even in Europe also, you find the same kind of thing. And in South America, the situation was also almost like the same, where the masters would control all those things. And, the colonial period came, and it basically treated the indigenous people the same way as was being treated by many others in the past also. And the worst thing is that they, even though in the colonial period they talked about the equality, they talked about equality in terms of language, in terms of what they should study, the dress, all those kind of things. Imam Hussein was not about those kind of things, that people should have one language or one dress or one. He was concerned about the status and dignity of the human being, that human being should have right to live as a decent human being, should have right to family, should have right to acquire knowledge, should have right to basically exercise restraint, should have right to basically choose their own path and their own way. It is in that sense he probably unconsciously made a distinction between equality and equity. Now, equity recognizes that each person has varying circumstances and needs, and therefore, different groups of people need resources and opportunities allocated to them according in order to thrive. That is what equity. Now, equality is giving everyone the exact same resource across the board. So he made that kind of distinction when based on the needs of the people, based on the groups of the groups also. He was talking of a society where the resources would be allocated on the basis of opportunities and on the basis of needs for people to thrive. So this is something that, of course, we came to recognize much later, even in this country, where uh, you know NCAs worked on those kind of lines, and still we have still the problems. I think both equality and equity has to be looked at from that kind of perspective, and it is in this context we look at the issue of equality, and we hope that when we talk about this equality, we make a distinction between equity and equality. And the vision, I may have got it wrong, but Dr. Walji would correct me. The Imam Hussein, as I understand, is more for equity, where people, according to their needs and to their status and to their position in the society at that particular moment, would be allocated resources and opportunities to improve their life situations and to move forward, whether it is ethical, whether it is economic, whether it is political, cultural, and all those things. Back to you, Dr. Walsh.
Thank you, Dr. Aslam. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I think a fine distinction between equity and equality that you enunciated, requires a lot of reflection on our part. And truly, I mean, it was all about, equity also in Karbala. At the same time, the equality that was to be ingrained within the various people who joined him from different places also suggested a level of equality there. Well, allow me to in fact quote the Blessed Prophet Islam, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that and this is truly the golden rule that defines the entire issue of equality as well as equity, because it encompasses both. When he said, "None of you truly believes until he wishes for his brother what he wishes for himself." This profound message, which generates empathy and compassion, resonates deeply with the essence of equity. The golden rule calls us to treat others as we wish to be treated ourselves. When you look at this, the entire concept of the golden rule, and the golden rule exists in almost every faith that one can come across, the idea of the equality within the human system. So I'd like to take this moment, the few moments that we have, to travel back to the sands of Karbala, where a diverse gathering of souls had emerged. There were Arabs from various tribes and non-Arab companions and individuals from different faiths. As we talked earlier, yesterday, that these people had come for a common cause. They were all united by a shared vision. And to them, Imam Hussein was a beacon of righteousness. And he was also here to shatter the chains of division, proving that Islam knows no specific orders, no prejudices. Example is, Habib ibn Mazahir, or Muslim ibn al-Sajjad that we talked about. The valiant non-Arab followers like the Ethiopian John, They united in the battlefield in their quest for justice that we talked a few days ago and equality that we are talking about today. They all stood as a testimony to the power of unity, echoing the call for brotherhood and mutual respect that echoed in the hearts of all those, who felt this message of Hussein. I mean, it's talking about equality and talk about status and the lack of status. In the midst of this extraordinary assemblage that we had, we find the embodiment of humanity's finest quality. Abu Thamama, a former slave, fought side by side with his fellow free men, affirming the soul of worth of every soul, irrespective of social status. There was the touching tale of just newly married Wahab al-Kalbi, a Christian, a man of different faith, drawn by that magnetic force of justice and equality. And it shows that his presence illuminated the spirit of inclusivity. We're talking about equality here. This was the spirit of inclusivity. So Imam Hussein embraced, proving that the call for righteousness transcends all different boundaries. And I'd like to thank one of my friends, Ali Abbas Qureshi, who drew my attention just yesterday on the concept of the kind of tribes who were there. And I'd like to share this list with you that he shared with me, that yes, there were 26 amongst the companions of Imam Hussein from the progeny of Abu Talib, the family, or what we may call the Ahlul Bayt. But there were also 13 people from the tribe of Hamadan, 8 people from the Arab tribe of Madhaj. There were 7 Ansar, 7 from the Banu Asad, the tribe of Azdi at 6, the Taimi tribe, the Kinda tribe, the Taglib tribe, and other helpers like the Juhani, the Kalbi, the Ghafari, the Tai, and the Tamil. All these were part and parcel of this group. So it was not just about one clan, as sometimes it is presumed that this was, a clan that Hussein had brought with him. This was a diverse group of warriors on the battlefield. At the same time, we talked about this a couple of nights ago, that there were women. The women who were the strength of the menfolk who were there waiting in the wings. And of course, the embodiment of strength, resilience, and unwavering dedication to the cause, where all these women, led by Zainab, the daughter of Ali, and they demonstrated their valor, nursing the wounded, offering solace, receiving the dead bodies of brothers, sons, and husbands, and all that, and with valor, with courage. And also Zainab's courage that we talked about a few nights ago, in terms of the eloquence in the face of adversity. All these are part and parcel of, be it gender equality, be it race equality, whatever it may be. Imam Hussein's army at Karbala became a living testament to this notion of equality. It was a tapestry that was woven from the threads of diversity and forming really a radiant example and a vision for an equitable world. But we cannot just confine this to the tales of history. There are lessons that can be lived within our lives today. Equality is not a mere concept to be discussed in hell or halls or in these Zoom sessions. They are values that enrich societies. They foster understanding and they promote harmony. I'm just going to go through a few basic principles in terms of when we talk about equality, that it's breaking down systematic or systemic injustices. Each one of us in our own unique strength possesses the power of influence to at least do something about it within our own spheres. In our nation, the Supreme Court ruling of Brown versus Board of Education, 1954, one people may recall, brought about dismantling of the systemic injustices. We too can challenge the status quo, be it in our own school boards, wherever it may be. The other aspect is to challenge stereotypes and prejudices. We face this every day. as advocates for equality, we should be really on the forefront of these stereotypes. We do have the potential to inspire change. Brandon Stanton, the photographer, with his Humans of New York project, he created this platform to share diverse stories, to break down stereotypes. This is what it means to foster a culture of understanding and acceptance. There are many others. Empowering marginalized communities. Really, the economic marginalization is a huge issue. And if we go back to the Grameen Bank founded by Muhammad Yusuf, we know Muhammad Yunus, we know that we too can do something to empower those who've been marginalized so that equality is achieved. Policy change, social justice. We've been talking about the entire movement of Karbala is a movement of social justice. So in our pursuit for a more just world, we can be advocates for policy changes, again, in our own spheres, wherever we can reach, just as the recent Black Lives Matter movement has shown the power of collective action in trying to push reform and social justice. This journey is not going to be, coming to us, very quickly. It requires perseverance, persistence in the face of adversity. Just as Imam Hussein changed the course of history through that persistence, through that issue of sticking and standing up for a cause, as did Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King, and others that we have mentioned. Remember, your voice, my voice, our actions matter. We matter. And this is where we need to make sure that if we are truly being faithful to the legacy of Imam Hussein, then we must make sure that our voice matters at whatever level that we can. In the words of Margaret Mead, never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. This legacy of Imam Hussein and all those who have walked the path of justice, equality, and compassion must inspire us to follow in their footsteps. Otherwise, we will only be paying tributes and there would be no ethical integrity to say that we praise all these people, yet we sit back and do nothing about it. With that, over to you, Dr. Aslam, for some more words of wisdom.
I think you rightly pointed out about the kind of equality that was part of that is part of the legacy of Imam Hussein. There are a few questions, of course, that we should also ask in terms of equality. Very pointed questions. That when he's talking about social equality, was he talking about what we call equal rights and liberties and status, including civil rights of people? And the answer is yes. When he was being forced to have allegiance, what was his response? Basically, that I have rights to either accept or reject those things, and certainly that right should be given to every individual. No one should be intimidated for that. He was talking of a society based on freedom of expression. He was talking of a society which has equal access to certain public goods, that the resources should not be monopolized by the power elites, and the social services should not be only confined to those people who are closer to the power elites. What was basically happening? If you look at the administrative structures of that particular time, that is quite evident that a kind of nepotism, a kind of favoritism was being committed by those people who were in the power elites, neglecting the people on the basis of their merit, neglecting people who are more capable of doing things, and basically having people who showed the loyalty to the tyrant and to the despots in that particular respect. Now, it also he was also talking in terms of a society which legally uh, abolishes its class and the caste system, or the tribalism. Yes, the tribes people would identify, but based on the resources and based on the legalities of the state, no one would be given preference and over the other based on the resources of those things. And then, of course, he was talking of the absence of discrimination, or you know, in the state structures also. He believed in equality before the law, and that is evident also from various of the statements that one can look into. And also, he was also talking about the equality based on ethnicity, age, and all income or property, but within the context of each, the distinction that is evident also between equity and equality. So it was not only just a religious kind of fervor, but a manifestation of that religious values into the social structures of the society. He was concerned about the way the society was being reconstructed. Total in total opposition to what was uh, suggested by the Prophet, was promulgated by the Prophet during his time also. That and one such thing definitely one can refer to is the Constitution of Medina. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he came to Medina first, he together with the Ansars and together with the tribes of Arabia, together with Jews and also pagans, and he came up with that document which we call the Constitution of Medina, with 47 clauses, in which he talks about we, the people of Medina, give this constitution to ourselves. First, the idea of a common citizenship emerges, and certainly we find that echo in the words of Imam Hussein also, that he is also one of the important things that we learn from the traditions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When this constitution was being written, 4 of the tribes of Aus, who were Muslims, they refused to acknowledge and they refused to accept that constitution. They rejected that constitution. They refused to endorse it. And we did not find any action against those people by the Prophet, that these people should be excommunicated, should be killed, or should be basically ostracized from the community, and should be boycotted because they refused to sign that kind of treaty, which means that the right to dissent was inherent in a society that was being promulgated, and Imam Hussein was also standing for that right. That if I am not convinced that you are the right person to lead the community at this particular time, that you have committed certain acts that violate the fundamentals of the faith, then I have every right to question you, and I have every right to oppose you. And that right has been given to me by none other than the Creator. And certainly, the response of the tyrant was different. That who the hell that Creator is? I am the one who basically controls, and I'm the one who is the shadow of God on this earth, and I'll do whatever I want to do. And this is exactly what he did. And I think this is something that one has to realize, that when you have this kind of absolutism and this kind of attitude by the powers that be and the tyrants, then certainly you are not talking about Islam. You're not talking about God. You're talking about a kind of philosophy where you give primacy to yourself over all other things. You don't care about justice, you don't care about equality, you don't care about other things, but you care primarily your own power, whether it is based on family, whether it's based on tribes, whether it's based on your own greed. And I think this is something that one has to realize that the Imam Hussein's movement was a movement for social equality also. It was, yes, and there were not many people who joined that social movement at that particular time, but maybe in the spirit they were with him, they did not find the courage to basically stand up and risk their lives, but he was the one who did. And that's why we remember that, and we would continue to remember no matter what. Back to you, Dr. Walsh.
Thank you, Dr. Aslam. Suffice it to say that in our pursuit for this justice and equality, unless we become proactive advocates for the voiceless, then nothing will change in dismantling this system of oppression and the work towards the progress of and unity. And truly, this is something that we get reminded year after year. Every Muharram, we talk about the concept of social justice, of equality, of all the noble attributes in Karbala. Yet we see that once these days are over, the remembrance is over. It's human nature that we go back to our ways, and this is that level of consciousness that's required to be able to continuously believe in this, because in our quest for a just world, and this path was not easy. This path for anybody who was trying to do any changes, whatever the movement has been, was not easy. So we should not really be discouraged by the challenges that we encounter. Instead, perhaps, we draw strength from the examples of the unwavering determination of Imam Hussein and many others who sought to make change and make this humanity a better humanity and this world a better place to live, to make a positive difference and leave a lasting legacy for generations to come. This is, really our call, for the day. And towards the end, let us, in this noble endeavor, we seek Allah's help, because our efforts can indeed make a profound impact. And that commitment of building a world that embodies justice and equality, wells of compassion for the betterment of humanity, can come through our actions. And at this point, I will ask Dr. Aslam to perhaps conclude this with a dua for this session today.
I think we should go beyond our words. And it's perhaps time to change our attitude towards what we say. We are not saying it primarily to please ourselves or to basically make a point. We're saying it because we want to be motivated and we want others to get motivated to do things that really means some meaningful changes in the world in which we live today. So many inequalities and so many injustices and so many issues we face all over the world. And only when a group determined to change them adopts a value system that inspires us to sacrifice and that inspires us to work together, we can definitely achieve a lot. And certainly in that respect, this is a task that cannot be done by Shias alone or by the Sunnis alone, because we are all committed to the value system of Islam. And in that value system, the lines are very clear. And the issues are very clear, that we will not compromise the issue of injustice, on the issue of inequality, on the issue of discrimination, on the issue of denial of rights, on the issue of all those things. And I think this is something that we should work for. And in that spirit, we conclude today's discussion. Inshallah, we'll be back tomorrow also with focusing on other issues also. Let us recite Surah Al-Asr. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us to the right path and inspire us to turn our words into action. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.